Again, this is my first Tableau conference. Huge expectations and everything's been met so far. So really excited for that. Prior prep experience. So just quick show of hands so I can kind of gauge the room. How many people have used Tableau? Everybody, good. So you just go ahead and keep them up. I just want to see. So how many people have actually used Prep? Yeah. So I believe Prep is actually free. So I'm hoping to incite you guys to try it out today, if anything after this. So for my Prep experience, again, I was a SQL developer. And so I had a good idea of like table structures. I had a good idea of joins, unions, and pivots. And I had a really good foundation in the debugging aspect of it all. Other than that though, I was an amateur at the beginning and I hammered through all of the Tableau Prep training videos, which of course are free. So I would heavily recommend that, but really just getting out there and having an objective and trying to meet it. So MPH, or the Management Performance Hub, we again report through the governor. The idea here is that there is lots of different ways to get data through the state versus agencies and non-for-profits. And so when you're trying to get data here over on the right, you can attempt to do it a myriad of different ways. And you can do it by yourself, and you're more than welcome to attempt, or you can engage my team. And that's where we get involved, and we help you get to the data faster. And part of that, right, is you're gonna have the backing of our data analytics team, our BI team. You're gonna have our data science team. You're gonna have that validation that the information you're getting is best practice and world class. So the trick is, and I just got married 2 years ago, and my wife had to fill out, I don't know how many pieces of paperwork just to change her last name. We just moved last year, and we had to do the exact same thing. We had to go to the BMV, I had to change my tax information. So if you ever had to do that, you realize that these state agencies, federal and local, their databases don't talk to each other. So it's really difficult for people to understand that when we talk about data and making things work together, it's tough. But when you involve MPH, you get that holistic approach, you get that holistic view. And that's what's really awesome about what we get to do at a state level. Now for this project is the 21st Century Challenge Regions project, and the purpose, right? This is an executive order from our governor for this group, the CCT team, the Career Connections Talent and Development Team, to get over 1 million jobs in the next decade. Now I'll say that again because it's a really big number. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it, but they are engaged in getting 1 million jobs to Indiana over the next decade. Now, so what we're seeing, right, is we have jobs that aren't created, right? We have tech, jobs that are spinning up. What's hot right now won't be hot in 5 years. It might not even be in existence yet. And we also have people that are retiring. And so what we see this coming, and their job is to work with and attract, and develop these new workers. So I want to talk to you about this real fast. We started this project last January, and then we actually kicked off the first iteration at the end of May. I'm telling you, I've logged over 300 hours, and that's not even including the deck and the presentation work that I've done for this. But I'm on 158 plus iterations of this data display. It has been quite the fun time. So let me show you what it looks like. So over here is what you're going to see. Now, for me, it's always important to start with the why. And the why for me is to empower the who to understand their county's current landscapes. So when I say county, there are 92 counties in the state of Indiana, and each one of them has their own various means of best practice and, hey, I'm awesome, check this out. The second why is to stimulate and create partnerships. So one of the big things that come out of this is cluster and county regions. So people can go around and say, hey, this is my strength, this is your weakness. Let's build on that. Before this dashboard, because this is kind of the first time in state history that this has been available, you would have counties mismatching and talking and having these various conversations, but not having any real foundation for it. Now, everyone can point to one single data display and say, check this out. And so with that, right, we can tackle the challenges. We can tackle the challenges around attraction, development, and connection. Now for the who. Now this is a public dashboard. This is a public data display. So it's available to everyone. So if you want to go check it out today, which I heavily recommend, you can. But also I made it for the local decision makers, for the mayors, for the economic developers, and the list goes on. It's really wild. I've talked with other people in different agencies, and her husband, in this case, was a is a recruiter, and he uses it as a tool to try to recruit tech talent from outside of Indiana into Indiana because we have such attractive like a cost of living and standard of living. And I didn't know that, and so just getting out there and interacting is really phenomenal. And so the what is we gathered 35 plus data sources. I want to say it was like 39, 38, and made it really in one usable spot where you can do selections of counties and you can get aggregates on the fly. So that's really powerful for people trying to host these conversations. So let's check out, let's do some data display facts. So if you were curious, you said, Dakota, what is Indiana's top industries? It's a great, phenomenal question. It's actually something we can answer really easily, and that's actually the drug and automotive. We have huge GM presence. We have huge Eli Lilly presence. That's something you can easily find out. But you know, if I was interested in moving, right, you're trying to attract me, which counties would I go for a high household income? That's a phenomenal question. Actually, we have a heat map attribute in the data display that you can choose, I think, one of 5 variables in household income is one of them. So you can actually see right there in the top right, Boone County and Hamilton County. Hamilton County at 95 and Boone at 85. That's not so bad. Well, you know, so we're talking about household incomes, but it's not just about me. It's about my family, right? I have a wife, and we're going to have kids. What are the school districts like? It's a phenomenal question. So in Hamilton County, there are 9 school districts. In Boone County, there are 3. So what are the age demographics, right? So who am I going to be living next to, kind of deal? Who are my friends? What are my neighbors going to look like? Well, you know, Hamilton County, you have an average 38-year-old, and Boone County is 37. But the real question, especially after what I saw last night, is how many breweries and distilleries are there? And that's just something you're just going to have to come find out for yourselves. And feel free, welcome. We have a lot of them. So this is what we built it for, right? And as developers, we have this great idea of how things should be used when we develop it. And then we push it out to production, and then sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. But what's really cool here, so this is Secretary Milo speaking. So imagine this, if you would. There's an executive order granted. You were tasked with getting that over 1 million jobs in the next decade. How many best friends did you just make? How many email threads did you just get added to? How many reports using the same variable names did you just get added to that you have no context to? Like, oh, okay, come check out, this is the best metric we have. Check this out, you know, and that's just for 1 county. Try doing that for 92. So how important is this data display, its accuracy, its efficiency? When we talk about organizing the data and increasing the accessibility and being able to make it so you can drag and drop various counties, it's quite powerful. So that's the public sector, right? That's a state agency, but how is the private sector actually using it? Well, at RJL Solutions, this team is all of, I think, 9 people. This is something that I didn't ask for. No one sought after this. They tweeted about this. It's really impressive. They empower grant writers. They're grant writers for economic developers and things of such nature. So this is something that people are looking for and they're writing grants about. So how important, right? Data validation. We start talking about it. And again, before this, you could go to those 38 different spots all over the web and try to find everything, but we centralized it into one location. So I'm gonna try to demo it for you, but technology's hard. So let's, fingers crossed this goes as well as I hoped it will. Okay. Anything? No? All right, so let's try this. So normally I would have a live demo. You can go out and try this yourselves, and I heavily recommend it. But the idea here is I would select and I would hover over each one of these tiles. And each one of these tiles has various tooltips. So 1 tile equals 1 tooltip. There's 40 tiles. So it's 80 tooltips. Each one of those tooltips has 2 or 3 visits in itself. Tricky. So when we're finally talking about this, it's going to be 150 to 300 to 200 tabs individually. And so we as developers, we see that, right? We see that and we say, hey, I get it. That's 150 various calculations going all on at once. But to the public, they don't get it, right? So at this point, I would walk you through. I would select a few counties and we would wait patiently. And so just for my record, it usually takes about 6 seconds. So we'll sit here in silence for about 6 seconds, just as if I was able to select things, all right? So the idea here, right? So I've selected 4 or 5 counties, creating a cluster, and I can actually talk through it as we're working. And we're right at about 6 seconds right there. And so the average person, right? When we are waiting for things, we think of speed of thought. We're thinking of 5G. We're thinking instantaneous. We gotta have it now. So when this was originally rolled out, it happened on a touchscreen TV. And everyone was super excited about it, right? 30 some data sets all in one spot. I can select all these counties. I have a heat map selection. And they were dragging and dropping. And let's wait again in awkward silence for how long it took. The next time. And that is how long it took for one selection to happen the first time when this got rolled out. So I had a functional dashboard. It worked. It was accurate. People were excited about it. But I lost them because studies say you lose someone at 16 seconds, give or take. And what do we do, right? When the website refuses to update, we refresh the website over and over again. We keep clicking it and hoping it'll load faster. But we as developers know that's not the case for Tableau. You keep selecting things, it keeps having to restart. And so what people really oh, I'm super excited. And they slowly, you could just watch the body language. And I was standing there taking notes and I was just like, this is awful. I'm in trouble. This is great. Oh, geez. What do I do? And so pre-data display, let me see here. Jump back. So dashboard stats. So basically I want to tell you this, is I was able to take 29 of those 38 data sources and make it into one using Tableau Prep. And now, so what did that do for me, right? Big deal. Data sets 38, data sources 35 to 36. I was originally using one prep flow, but I wasn't really using it. It was all right. Stats in seconds though. Opening, we went from 27 seconds, right? People getting annoyed. We lose people. To 13. Selecting one county used to take 15 seconds. Now it takes 6. So when I'm talking about user experience, people aren't, even though 6 seconds is a long time, 6 seconds is not 16 seconds or even longer. So we actually cut all of the processing down in half by just using Tableau Prep and getting it integrated in. So here's some other fun usage metrics, right? So we rolled this out in May 2019. What's a good amount of views, right? Would you say 100? 100 would be all right, it's not so bad. What about 1,000? I'm a developer. I used to develop for sales teams. Me trying to get sales teams to look at metrics and graphics that I built for them was really tough. And this isn't something that I even advertise. But what about a 5,000? That's pretty good. What about 7,200 times in the last few months? And this is just off a Tableau server. I think we've reached 48 states, because this is public, right? So other states are interacting with this. People are using it as a recruiting tool. It's kind of wild. Now you're wondering, Dakota, of those 72,000, how many are from you? And that is such a great question. We're just gonna have to move right along. I don't know, it's a lot. But how many views since, so when I say views, right, we've actually had other counties reach out. So right now this data display is all for 92. We've pre-populated it, we've created custom views of this dashboard or this data display, and we made it so that these other counties can embed that data display in their web pages. And then, hey, you want the full stack, come back, check us out. It's a lot of fun. But And I heard someone ask the question in the back, which county has the lowest household to price income ratio? And that is such a phenomenal question. It's something that we can easily answer. It's actually Rush County. So that little star is Indianapolis, that's where I'm from. But Rush County, right? That's pretty impressive. 0.75 housing price ratio and a 78 year, that's pretty good. That's pretty good living. All right, we'll continue. So prep elements, right? The things you guys are probably actually here and interested to hear about. Finally, we got to it. Prep steps. So when I look at prep, I think I got about 4 things. We can connect to your data, which we saw this morning. Cleanse your data. You can transform it and create your output. 4. Cleansing types, right? You can change the types. You can rename fields. The naming conventions. Fuzzy groupings is huge, especially for me, and I'll explain here in a second why. Filtering and calculations, and then the smart recommendations piece is phenomenal, because how many of us have been given data with like 80% null values and having it be completely worthless? Well, prep points those columns out immediately and says, hey, I don't know how useful this is, and it allows you to kind of debug further as a developer. Transformation tools wise, you can go into each one of these really well. The big thing I want to run through you guys is the clean step. Is best practice in my mind to always do a clean step after your calculations or your transformations. So then you know exactly what you're getting for in the next step. So then you can do your joins and your unions and all that good stuff. So think of it like this. I'm working with non-government agencies. I'm working with other agencies in the government. If you've ever had to work with 2 different departments, right, and try to get their data aligned, let me see a quick hand. Because how easy is that, right? What about, again, using that like BMV, Department of Motor Vehicles reference, and saying, getting 2 data sorts that were never meant to talk to each other to communicate. How stressful is that? So when I started out this, I was getting PDFs, I was getting CSVs, I was getting Excels, and I was getting server. So what's wild, right, is prep can connect to all of these guys. So you see your PDF on the front, on your top, your Excel in the middle, and your server on the bottom. So seamlessly, all 29 of these I can plug in. From there, I had to worry about refresh rates, because everyone has a different refresh rate from daily to bi-yearly or every 5 years. You have to worry about samples and you have to worry about estimates. And so being able to get my refresh rates on the exact same, so in my mind, at least at a monthly rate, that was crazy easy to do when I had prep involved. Now, data structures, right? You have your wide data sets, tons of variables. I'm talking 28, 30, 40 columns that you don't need. You only need like 4. And you got your really long columns, right? And so I know as a developer in Tableau prefers those really tall columns. So in prep, I'm actually able to restructure, and I can get the data sets exactly how I want it before I get them to intermingle with each other. From there, St. Joseph's, if anyone's ever heard of the University of Notre Dame, that's where St. Joseph's is. That's the county the University of Notre Dame's in. And there is a myriad of ways to spell St. Joseph. You have ST, capital ST, lowercase st, ST with a period, St. Joseph's, Joseph. And so when you're looking at that, you could say, hey, that's 3 different types. And when I originally was doing this, I actually had a bunch of data quality issues, because as I was joining, Tableau assumed that I knew what I was doing, right? But the idea here is that I was able to align that and get it all to be the same St. Joseph's. And that's that fuzzy grouping when it allows me to see. So I'll actually show you a little bit of a prep flow later, but the idea here is I should always have 92 counties. And the moment I see 93, 94, 95, I can go back and I can see where that bug comes in. Maybe it's the data that was given to me, maybe it's the data I've been working with, but we can find it, and it's really easy to do. From there, I'm able to union, and that is my bread and butter as a SQL analyst or a SQL developer, right? Spit it out in a various output. Now, just recently, I noticed that we can actually output to CSVs now, which is very powerful, and the hyper file. So this is how I actually did it. Now, first iteration, right? I started out with the data source, I got it clean. I said, let's join them, full join. It's a great idea. It's a bad idea for anyone out there that is thinking like, man, that's performance-based, that's a nightmare. And so I just kept joining, and I don't know how long you can make it, but it was a really long, wide prep resource. So for my second iteration, I said, all right, what if I started out getting everything right on the left, and I started unioning early? And what I didn't know, and what I later found out, was that I could do the unions all at once. So, and do what I call union clusters. You can do up to 8 of them before it bugs out and it doesn't work. So I really pushed the limits on this one, but the idea here is that all 4 of these data sets, you can do up to 8, one spot. So actually I ended up color coding them, so then when a bug does emerge and I can see, oh, okay, this is an orange one, go back, find the orange, okay, and find where it's at. Super easy. So in the end, all I really needed was year, county type data. And so I was able to take those Excels that I had 28 rows or 28 columns. I said, man, I just need these 4 actually, and it makes sense now, and it's accurate, and it works. But you know, I keep you guys from getting your 8 hours tonight, and I know this is something everyone's gonna be thinking about later. So I figured I'd put your ease to rest, right? And that one is actually LaGrange County with a 2.7 unemployment rate. Phenomenal county if you ever want to check it out. With a $63,000 a year median household income. That's not so bad. And that's northern Indiana, if anything, yeah? They're actually in 13 degrees right now, and I feel really bad for them because we left, and 70 degrees is so much nicer. But all right, so production example. This is it. This is all I had to do. I'm kidding, absolutely kidding. It's all right to laugh. But here, so when I open up my prep example, this is one of the flows that I use, right? And normally I would scooch it over and you would see something along these lines. And I wish I could have zoomed it in more so you guys can actually see what I'm trying to show you here, but I'll call out a few things. You have your data resources on your left. You have your summary icons in the middle, and you have, it's all visually digestible. So what's really cool about this is that you can name and note every little aspect of what you do. Each one of these little icons tells you exactly what you've done. It creates a digital ledger for you. So if I have to hand it off to one of my coworkers and they have no idea what madness I was in, they could go back and see, oh, this is where he made this change. And it's easily to walk, you can walk it back and through. So some big takeaways, right? We're coming up to the close here. We were able to align 29 different data sets and make it one. We were able to cut our processing time in half, and Tableau Prep helped me illuminate and resolve my data bugs. Now, again, I want to heavily recommend the prep training videos and to take advantage of your community resources, because I found out I got a lot of help from a Tableau doctor, and I reached out to my internal community, and it was huge. Again, this is a public data set, so you guys are more than welcome to tease it out. Try to break it, like the proper Tableau developers I know you are, and tell me how I can do a better job. In my first iteration of this deck, I actually broke down how I made it, and each one of those used to be individual squares, and now I just GUI'd a high-resolution image on the back of it, so it's just a bunch of white lettering sitting in space over an image. It was really fun. Other than that, we actually have this on-demand webinar as well. So please, thank you so much for visiting. Be sure to review me on my app, on the app. This is my first time, so I'm kind of curious how to do it as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But if I haven't sold you on it already, please come to Indiana. We are actually always hiring. So if this didn't recruit you, I don't know what will. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And have a great conference, everybody.